Thanks for joining us. This is a very brief discussion about the idea that the end of time is revealed to Daniel in Sefer Daniel, what that means, why Daniel is the person that information is revealed to, and how we can understand it and take lessons for it in our daily lives.
Okay, now I want to totally switch our heads in a completely different direction and focus on the fact that Daniel was called Chamudo. We had it as what, beloved, precious,
By Gabriel.
by Gabriel. Well, Gabriel is telling him, I guess, that on high, you're everyone, up in Shemayim, everyone's like, oh, that Chamudo guy.
You're cool with us,
right? So and it happens again in the next paragraph. Like, spoiler alert, he's called Ish Chamudot. He's the only guy that I know of in all of Tanakh who's called precious. And it seems, especially from the next parak, that he's called that because the Malach says, you refrain from eating lechem chamudot. There was this, precious bread, which is what Nebuchadnezzar was trying to feed him. He doesn't eat it, so he's called chamudot, or ish chamudot, which is kind of like calling...
Can I get meat a little bit?
Well, yeah, I guess, but it's kind of like calling, the guy who's on a no-carbs diet Mr. Carbs.
Yeah.
Right? Because he's not eating carbs, so he's called Mr. Carbs. But okay.
Right. I like that analogy.
It's a very interesting thing because nobody else gets that name. That's like, why? What is it about Daniel that he's treated like so differently than everybody else? So when you run into questions like that, the first thing you do is look for the word in its earliest. Well, start by finding its earliest place. Yeah. Well, where's the first time it's used in Tanakh? Any takers on the first time something is chamud?
The Yaakov Avinu and Yitzchak. Is that the delicacies?
No. That's a good one, but earlier. Okay, so the Eitz Hadat. It says that Chava saw the Eitz Hadat, that it was nechmad. That it was what's that?
That's really early.
That's really early, right?
Yeah.
In the second and third parak, she sees the Eitz Hadat and it's nechmad. So, Onkelos, let's do a little booking over here. The word nechmad.
Did they use the word chamud for?
Well, the shoresh.
No. I'm saying for what I'm saying for the delicacies that Yitzchak could serve.
I'm not sure.
I'm trying to think if I'm wrong or not.
Okay, so the pasuk says as follows: "V'yitzmach Hashem Elokim min ha'adama kol eitz nechmad." So Hashem makes the tree nechmad, and then in 3:6, Chava takes a look at that tree and she's like, "Wow, that is nechmad." Avatera isha ki tov ha'etz lamachal v'chi ta'avahu le'einayim. So it's good for eating and it's desirous for the eyes. V'nechmad ha'etz lahaskil, and it's nechmad for understanding. What does nechmad mean? Says Onkelos. It's merageg, which is just a fun word to say. Whenever you want to say a fun word, say merageg. What does merageg mean? Any takers? I have no idea what merageg means until I look in Professor Jastrow. And he, I'm not even going to bother. I have it over here. Merageg, Professor Jastrow translates as almost like ants in the pants desire. His actual phrase is urgent anticipation. So if you looked at a fruit tree, would you be filled with a sense of urgent anticipation? Yeah, you can look up merageg.
Yeah. Is this the area of the bookmark?
Cherry, right? I mean, no, that's not the bookmark. It seems like a very strong description of a feeling towards looking at a tree, right? Until
Gotta have it.
Well, let's go back to what we discussed. I think in the first parak when we had our first class. We talked about the connection between Daniel not eating and becoming wise because of that, and how there were allusions there to the Eitz Hadas, right? Between eating and receiving das. The quote, which I put in the WhatsApp, but I really like reading because it's a great quote to me, is from the famous poet Ralph Waldo Emerson. He says, "I cannot remember all the books I've read any more than the meals I've eaten. but even so they have made me. So what does that mean? It's like you are what you eat.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's less about the fruit per se than it is the idea of consumption and control. That so the 10th commandment is lo tachmod, don't covet.
Right.
Right? It's that same idea. It's wanting the thing that you can't have. Right? That's the Eitz Hadas. It's wanting the thing not because you want the thing. I want your thing. I could go get my own, but I want yours because I can't have it. Right? You can't put limits on me. The second you put limits on me, I'm not infinite. That's what the Nachash said to him. Eat from the Eitz Hadas and you're going to be like God. Because this is the one thing you can't do. So do the thing that you can't do. And then you will have no limits, right? That's why people have this desire. That's where chamudah comes from. Lo tachmod is don't break that boundary. Don't feel hemmed in by the fact that you are hemmed in, right? I think that's really what this. There's a. I don't know if I have
He
time to.
didn't indulge this, and therefore.
Right. He voluntarily chose to restrain himself, and that's why he is. It doesn't. The pasuk we read doesn't say that he's an ish chamudo. We say that in the next pasuk. This pasuk says you are chamudo. You are desire. You are the concept. You are the concept of chamud. You get it in the opposite. Like think about like Pirkei Avos says any love that is totally badavar that's dependent on something, and then you have Amnon and Tamar, right?
Right.
He wanted her not because he
her.
actually wanted her, because the second he had her, he hates her and he sends her away. He wants her because he wants the thing that he can't have, right? Because he can't have it. That's why he wants it. What Daniel is asking when he first asks to understand what is going on and they come and tell him the case is he wants to know the thing that you can't know, right? And he sees afterwards they tell him the information and he still doesn't know it. There is a very interesting book by Professor Elliot Wolfson, who is a professor of mysticism, and he writes a book about Chabad and how Chabad's view of Messianism and Mashiach works. And he says the following thing. And this is when he's talking about how the Chabad Rebbeim would talk about Yemos HaMashiach. So he says there's something of the secret that remains hidden in the act of its transmission. I think that's a very insightful line. There are things that you can tell somebody and it's still a secret. You can. I'm trying to find the right words for the thing. It's like
you can tell somebody the code phrase, but if they don't know the meaning behind the code phrase, they're missing something.
You're telling them you're telling somebody something that is unknowable. It's not like the case is a date. It's not like the Malach could just whisper to him, okay, like 5784. That's when it's gonna happen, and you're gonna be wearing a pink shirt. That's not what Kates is. It's a process of understanding what HaKadosh Baruch Hu is doing, and you can't understand that. You can be told it, but that doesn't change the fact that you don't know it.
Like when I learned Gemara.
And that's really like that's why when people have this desire, this lo tachmod, what they want is to get the ability to have the thing that they can't have, right? So when like the use of the dot, that when you eat from the Eitz Hadat, what are you getting out of that? You're just getting the ability to break that boundary. I'm trying to think of a like
you're transcending.
Yeah, but
you're transcending.
You're using the point is you're using the dot not because you want the dot. You're using it just to break down.
Break out of your own limitations. Yeah.
What's a good from my world? So cybersecurity. The big discussion is what's going to happen when quantum computing gets to a certain point that all your security is going to be meaningless, obsolete. Right? You have right now they have quantum computing at whatever it is, 4-bit, but you're going to get to a certain point where you have 256 bit encryption on your bank account, and the quantum computer can break that in 30 seconds. So the why is that the first thing people are going to use quantum computing for, right? You're using the dot just to get you access to the thing that you're not supposed to have access to. You're not using it because you care intrinsically about about das. You care intrinsically about getting the thing you're not supposed to have. You're just using das as a means of getting to your end, right? That's what HaKadosh Baruch Hu doesn't want. What he does want is he wants you to desire to know. That's why.
So he wants you to desire to know, but not to know.
Yes, and to choose to intentionally refrain, right?
So
So you got this vision. It's
so
really
what,
tough to
from knowing?
To 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 constantly be in pursuit of, but never need to achieve.
Tell me no line.
So
Don't go over the line.
That's a very difficult
Yes.
concept.
Yeah, you give this guy this vision.
So basically, why don't we,
Bottom
when we
line.
learn Torah, why don't we just learn Aleph Bet over and over again? Why do we
no,
actually?
the whole point of humanity is to know God.
Right.
You're never going to actually know God, but you're going to continue to try to know God, right? And that desire is what he wants. That's why he puts the Eitz Hadas there in the first place. Like what the whole thing sounds like a setup. Like I'm going to put this thing. Just don't put the Eitz Hadas in Gan Eden, and everyone's okay. Why does he put it there? Because he wants you to want it. He makes it nechmad. He wants you to want that understanding of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. That's very precious to him. But the way you actualize it is by limiting yourself, by following the limitation that he puts in front of you,
It's a
not
journey.
going.
It's a journey, not the destination.
It's right. It's understanding that the value of the journey and wanting to want the journey and not wanting to want the destination.
He tells him Vahavim. So he wants, that means to try to not gain understanding, but to keep thinking about it. He wants them to have Bina, not Da. I don't know, it's like, is that
He
not the
wants
final
you-
knowledge?
Yeah,
What?
that's the point. There's no final. You can't have final
Yeah,
knowledge
final knowledge.
in this situation. That's what the difference in what I'm trying to describe to you, probably poorly, is this is why Daniel needs to be a melech. We talked about him transitioning from being the slave to being like a king. A king can never assert himself. That's you have this difference between David and Shaul. That David refuses to do anything to act out against Shaul, versus let's say Achav. So Achav wants
The vineyard, and he
right, and
creates a
that's
pretext.
right. That's the beginning of the end of Achav's kingdom, because the second the king asserts anything of his own desire,
Not a king
he's
anymore.
not a king anymore. Daniel needs to become a king to understand you can't know whatever I'm going to tell you. You can't know, and you can't try to consume it. All you can do is desire to know it.
That is a really, really out there concept.
The desire to know the unknowable God is exactly what is beloved to God. He wants you to feel that ants in the pants desire to know God. That's what he wants, but not to consume it. Not to want that knowledge so that you can consume it and control it, but for the sake of wanting it in the first place.
For the sake of relationship.
Right. For the sake of the fact that this is the most that you can do is want to connect to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. If you want to connect to him so that you can be free or control or whatever, if you want to do it for some other reason, then you're not connecting with him.
Uh-huh.
You're pursuing because you really want the outcome, not because you want the pursuit.
Dating a girl for the wrong reasons, because you want to.
Right.
You're not interested in the long haul.
The greatest accomplishment of man is not to feel limited or confined or reduced in desire by the restrictions that are inherent in not knowing. You're never going to wholly succeed in knowing God, but you have to. God wants you to desire to continue to know Him. Does that make sense? That's what Daniel is. In his essence, he is that desire. He doesn't want to.
That's why he's always davening.
That's why he's always yeah, beautiful. He doesn't he doesn't need to know the Kates in order to feel better about himself. He needs to understand because he can't have a relationship with God in the situation he's in. I don't understand. I expect you to do X and you're doing Y, then you and I are not in sync. If I expected you to do X and you're doing Y, it means I don't understand you. I need to understand you. That's all I want to do is understand you. I don't want to understand you so that I can get out of the gullus or so that I can win, fabulous prizes or whatever. I'm not interested in the outcome. I'm not trying to eat the Eitz Hadat so that I can, accomplish X, Y, Z. I'm trying to pursue God. And when I'm going this way, when he zigs and I zag, it means that I'm not properly pursuing. I don't understand. So the Malach says we can do that all day long. I'm happy to make you understand why he went this way and not that way. You're never going to understand. You're never going to get to the end. You're never going to be, oh, now I understand. Because he made a left turn there, that means he's headed in this direction. You have no idea what direction he's going, and I can even tell you, and you still won't have any idea what direction he's going in, because you're not God. But the fact that you constantly want to know, even though it's going to destroy you to know, the stuff Daniel is being told destroys him. He's totally...
He got sick.
Yeah, he's sick. He's mourning. He's confused. But he wants to continue to know because he wants to know God, not because he wants to know the Kates. He didn't ask, okay, can you please, just explain yourself again. The Malach explains it. Daniel doesn't say, well, I don't get it. I'm angry. This doesn't make sense to me. He wants to know because he wants to know.
Tremendous power in paradox, huh?
Okay. Ad Khan.